Hello chess lovers, it's now more than 2 months since I published my course Preventing Blunders in Chess. And I'm so humbled to tell you that the course got amazing reviews by the students. Reading such course reviews is an amazing feeling as an author. This is the best feedback that an author can receive, according to me, because you really feel like you're helping people. Touching people's life like this, improving their chess like this is an amazing feeling as an author. Just to tell you a couple of reviews here, like look how long this is. They were really impressed by this course, and apparently their blunder ratio is reduced, and they feel like the course is really helping them structuring their thought processes, being more mindful about the clamp checklist, being more mindful about blunders, and how they streamline their thinking after the clamp checklist that I introduced in my course. It's not really bragging, guys. I don't usually do these videos, by the way, but when I see such amazing feedback like this on a consistent basis from different people, I feel like I should let the world know about this, because I'm very proud of this feedback. This really makes me really proud. It really motivates me to put more effort on my next courses, right? I spent 1 full year to fetch the positions, to clean up the positions, to clarify the positions for best learning outcomes. And I think people see this. I think this is the main reason why the course got an amazing feedback like this only within 2 months. Today, I will show you some positions to highlight my clamp method, okay? And to tell you how you can use the clamp checklist to reduce the blunders. It's very hard to even come to the bottom, guys. Okay, finally we reached the bottom. Now we are beginning with positions. Let's introduce the clamp checklist with letter C. White just checked on C1. It's black to move right now, folks. Black has an extra rook for 3 pawns. Of course, white is going this way. So white is far away from promoting their pawns, and we need to react against this check. Okay? Give yourselves choices and then choose the correct move for black. And please tell me why that's the correct solution. Checkmate ends the game, so clamp checklist should start with letter C. As a result of your very move, are you allowing a devastating check for the opponent? That's my definition of a blunder, by the way. Your very move changes things that allow a winning tactic for the opponent. And we are after those concrete targets like check, letter C. You're looking at the opponent's next check as a result of your very move. Okay, let's apply this letter C to this position. And of course, letter C becomes much more relevant if your king is exposed, lacking pawn cover, stuck in the center, or right in the middle of the enemy camp like this. Obviously, in these positions, you need to be much more mindful about letter C. Otherwise, you can get mated. All right, so choices is between queen e1 and king f2, clearly, right? Queen d1 is also a choice, but of course, that just drops the queen with check, so we don't look at that move. Either queen e1 or king f2. Okay? How do you judge these two moves, guys? How do you judge the safety of these moves? If I ask you, for example, to start with the move king f2, how many checks does white have against that move? That's a question, right? I will make the move king f2, and you need to visualize the move king f2, and you're searching for all kind of checks by the opponent against that move. That's the proper way of doing a blunder check. Are you giving a devastating check to white? How many checks do they even have at that position? Okay? Ask yourself. Where can they check your king on its new square? Once you come to your senses, guys, you see that there's only one check for white at that moment. And now you tell me what kind of a check it is. Is it a bad check or a good check for you? Do you have a response against this check? And the answer is no. Please visualize, guys. Please visualize the checkmate. King f2, queen g1. Unfortunately, your queen is blocking your king's access to e2, and your king is restrained in mobility. All these squares are taken away by the king as well, and you just get mated. Okay? So, very quick analysis ensures that king f2 is a mistake, is a blunder, you get mated. And the good thing about this position is this: there's only a single meaningful check to calculate against king f2, right? Because yes, queen takes e5 is also a check, but the queen drops directly. Queen e3 is also a check, but of course can be captured by 2 different ways. So then you really understand that as a result of the queen infiltrating the first rank, these are new options for the queen. So of course our attention is directed on those new possibilities for the white queen on the first rank, right? They just moved to c1 and now new options are opening up for the queen. Okay, once you see king f2 is a direct checkmate, then you have no other choice but to play queen e1. And this is called the method of elimination, right? This doesn't require any calculation. You don't need to spend any time on this move queen e1 because you have no other choice anyway. The other choice is a direct checkmate, so you save time. That's a great time saver, the method of elimination. You play queen e1 and you take it from there, right? With best play, by the way, white can survive with a perpetual check, but it's white's responsibility to find the perpetual check from this position. For example, queen c4 check is the only move. If queen e2, queen c1 back, we must repeat this position, guys. After queen c4 check, if you go king f2 in this position, guys, then again, the only way to save a draw for white is queen h4 check, checking this way. If king f1, then they repeat. That becomes obvious. And after this check, guys, if you go to e2 with the king, then again, they can check on c4 or e4. In this case, they can even check on e4. Well, they can check on e4 against king e2, and you can make the sneaky move king f2, inviting them to take on c6, because then they would get mated on g1. Thus, white needs to go back with queen h4 check, and they will secure a draw with this funny drawing mechanism, right? It's sort of like a nice pendulum, go back and forth, right? The queen just finds a nice geometry to secure a draw in this position. But it's white's responsibility to find all this. It's not your task, basically, as black, to see the perpetual from this position. Your task is to ensure you don't get mated on the next turn. And the clamp checklist will very quickly help you noticing the blunder king f2. Now I will introduce letter L and A in a single position. Loose pieces and alignments. They are always relevant when it comes to chess tactics, guys. White to play. Can white take the pawn on b4 in this position? Please judge the safety status of the move bishop takes b4. Is it a safe move or a blunder? Please stop the video, dig deeper about this position, search for the best response by black against that move, and then short calculation, please, and tell me, please, whether the move is safe or a blunder. White would like to grab the pawn and claim one extra pawn in this position, but before you take the pawn on b4, you must see two very important things about that position. First things first, you're creating a loose bishop on b4. Why? What makes a loose piece in chess? Loose piece, in my book, is a piece that has equal number of attackers and defenders. The bishop on b4 will have one attacker on that square and only have one defender, namely queen on b3. Notice, by taking on b4, you're creating a loose piece on b4. One attacker and one defender. Loose pieces are always relevant for chess tactics. As John Nunn said, loose pieces tend to drop off in chess. So that's a potential problem for us that you must be mindful as white. You're creating a loose piece if you go through the L part in the clamp checklist, okay? What else? What else is changing if you take on b4, guys? Please notice the recent changes about that position. You're creating an alignment, and you tell me which alignment is that. You're creating an alignment between your bishop and the queen on the b file. If you take on b4, you're inviting the move queen b6, guys. Can you see it? Just purely by going through this A part in our checklist, alignment part, we are noticing that the pieces are vertically aligned on the b file if you take that pawn. Pure geometry. And the queen can access this b6 square that can potentially punish you, because not only you're playing with a loose bishop on b4, but even the queen on b3 is a loose piece. Going back to that moment, guys, the queen has 0 attackers and 0 defenders on that spot. Thus, it looks like you're inviting a disaster, right? It looks like the seeds of tactical destruction has been planted in white's camp, namely 2 loose pieces and the alignment that could be exploited. Okay, now don't stop there, please. That's the beauty of this course. I invite you to engage in three-ply calculations and defeat moves that seem to be blunders at first sight. Okay? So, please bear with me. It's a rewarding exercise, guys. Bishop takes b4, queen b6. Is white lost at that moment, or can you see a salvation for white? There's a move that keeps white in the game and avoids white from losing a piece. At first sight, the bishop is pinned, they will take on b4 on the next turn, the game is lost. But I invite you to browse the entire board for loose pieces in the black camp. As John says, loose pieces tend to drop off. They're always relevant for chess tactics. Have you spotted, guys, the knight on e5 at that moment after queen b6? The knight on e5 becomes a loose piece. The drawback of the move queen b6 was it was making this protected knight a loose knight at that moment. Beautiful, right? Now we are gaining information. Please, bishop takes b4, queen b6, white to move. White has one move that saves them. How do you solve your alignment problem, your loose piece problem, while also attacking the loose knight on e5? That becomes your game plan. And you're a great player, folks, if you at that moment saw the move queen c3. That's the only resource for white that keeps white in the game, because you're not only unpinning your bishop on b4, but also hitting the loose knight on e5. Counterattack saves you at that moment. And folks, once again, please visualize. Bishop takes b4, queen b6, queen c3. Please visualize that moment. It's a knight check shadow distance. The knight cannot move with a check or attack against a higher rated piece. You can also include rook takes, and then queen c3. They are identical, guys. White is saving the piece at that moment, and white is having slightly better position. Let's put on the board, guys. Bishop takes b4 is correct if and only if you saw the move queen b6. Otherwise, you got lucky. If you didn't see queen b6 and only here you realize your problems and then you found queen c3 resource, you get lucky. In my book, you can get lucky in chess if you make a good move for a wrong reason. Okay? Queen b6 must have been seen by white. L and A checklist letters, yeah? Loose bishop is now a hanging piece actually. And even the queen is on b3 is a loose piece. And they're aligned on the b file. Now, you play the move queen c3, guys, right? Look at this. The drawback of the move queen b6 is the knight on e5 becomes loose, and then you gain information about the position, and you're solving your problem by this move queen c3. Everything is working for white. There are no tricks. There are no skewers. There's no way for black to win material by force in its position. The knight also cannot move by a check or attacking another piece, right? It's a beautiful distance between the queen and the knight. I made a video about this, of how to tame the knight. Look how far away the knight is to our queen on c3, right? There are no knight forks to worry about. And now you will either, well, if they take on b4, you will take on e5. Centralized queen. The queen is quite secure on e5. Extra pawn for white with a good position. Otherwise, if they take with the queen, guys, then you can still take on e5 and achieve a better position. Of course, they can play bishop f6, queen c7, attacking here potentially. They can take on b2. The problem is after rook b1, we also have some pressure on b7. So with best play, white will get a slightly better position here. Going back to this position, guys, I love this exercise. And in my blunder check course, such exercises are waiting for you, right? Sometimes a move looks like a blunder, but you will still play it because you calculated one ply deeper, just like in a real game. Real world chess doesn't always present ourselves with winning moves or always a move turns out to be a blunder. Sometimes you need to see the problems behind the move, and yet you need to defeat this first tendency of avoidance. You tend to look one ply deeper, notice the recent changes, notice which piece become loose, and you can even apply the clamp checklist to attacking context. And that's a final function of this course. If you truly grasp the clamp checklist to prevent blunders, you can use clamp checklist to punish the opponent's blunders or find winning tactics for yourself. Let's continue with letter M in our checklist, namely mobility restrictions. Trappable pieces, guys. Sometimes your very move traps a piece on that square, or you make a move and another piece gets trapped, lacks mobility. Right? We need to always ensure that our pieces have enough mobility in chess. They can move around. Otherwise, they can get trapped by an attack, by a pawn, or some other piece in the enemy camp. In this position, black played the move knight c5. And they are hitting the rook on b7, guys. Please tell me whether the rook should drop back to, let's say, b2, or should we grab the pawn on e7? Okay? Two choices. Please decide between these two moves. Is this a poison pawn or marshmallow pawn on e7? Should we grab the marshmallow or should we refuse the marshmallow and go back to b2? How do you decide, guys? How do you decide? How do you blunder check this move? First things first, folks. By taking on e7, are you noticing that the rook itself is restrained in mobility? If I ask you, how many legal moves does the rook on e7 have at that moment? Not many, right? Every single square is taken away by the black pieces. Please notice that. Imagine the rook stands on e7, guys. Every square is taken away by the black pieces. You have no safe square away from e7 to move your rook into. Thus, if they can attack the rook on e7, the rook can simply get lost. And how can they attack the rook? That's the problem, because you might tell yourself, but how can they attack my rook? I mean, if they play rook e8, I'll just exchange. The knight cannot attack my rook. Well, the queen is far away. And then you notice the king can become a very strong piece in chess. You see the move king f8 simply attacks the rook, and there is no other white piece that can defend the rook on e7, and the rook simply gets trapped and lost. Right? Rook e7, marshmallow pawn, poison pawn, king f8 is the only refutation. Suddenly, the rook is trapped. There's no squares whatsoever. You're going to lose it on the next turn. So, what is the bottom line here? This also, of course, involves a good tactical awareness and tactical vision, that you need to have a very keen eye, and you should quickly spot potentially trappable pieces in chess. That's a different kind of chess tactic, right? This is different than loose piece or alignment concepts we discovered so far. That's why it deserves a separate category, like M in our checklist. Sometimes it's the piece that moves that gets trapped on its new square. Sometimes just move a piece and some other piece gets restrained in mobility as a result. So you also need to look at the entire board before you make a move, and always ask yourself, am I trapping one of my own pieces? Is one of my pieces gets restrained in mobility if I make that move? That's a good position, guys. I will introduce P part in our clamp checklist, namely passed pawns. Black to play in this position. Black has 3 extra pawns. Well, heavy piece endgame. The rook is pinned. Looks like you're having problems. So there's one move for black that is very logical strategically, right? Strategically logical move is, of course, to trade the queens and exchange off white's only active piece that causes counterplay and win the rook endgame with 3 extra pawns. Okay? Alignment, please. The queen and the king are aligned on this diagonal. Thus, we have choices. We can trade the queens with queen c5 or with queen b6. Okay? 2 very logical strategic moves comes to mind, given how we read the board in this position. But here lies the devil. One move is a blunder, the other one is a game-winning move. How do you decide, guys? How do you judge which move is the correct move for black here? Please stop the video, go deeper, and tell me an answer clearly with some short lines that you calculate. That's a rewarding exercise for you. Folks, queen c5 was a great move. Congratulations if you came up with this. Queen c5 is great. Queen d5 was also a good move here, but we are definitely after these 2 options for black. This forces a queen trade in this position, and now after takes, yes, they can go to d7 to attack the pawn, but this is actually a very winning position for black. You play rook a2, you cut the king, look at the king, that's a terrible piece, and also this rook is perfectly placed behind the pass pawn, and now those 4 pawns will simply roll, supported by the king on g7, and you're completely winning this position. There is no counterplay whatsoever for white. It's a completely winning endgame for black. The simplest and the most technical way was this. What is wrong with the move queen b6, guys? Please blunder check the move queen b6. What is changing? What is changing? What is changing is the pawn structure. Because after a takes b6, you just created a passed pawn for the opponent. A6 pawn becomes a passed pawn as a result of the trade on b6. In the endgame, whenever the opponent has a passed pawn, you must be vigilant. You must ask yourself, as a result of my next move, am I creating an unstoppable passed pawn? That's the P part in our clamp checklist. Almost always a great question in an endgame. In this position, there is no passed pawn, but your very move is making that pawn a passed pawn for white, and it's your task to see this from this position. But how can white make use of the pass pawn? And here comes short calculation. They will take on b6 and then they will play the move. Tarash was right. Rooks belong behind the pass pawns. Rook a1 and nobody stopping the move a7 and a8. You must sacrifice your rook for that pawn and white is winning the endgame with an extra rook. Please visualize this position, guys. Already from this position, please see how white will punish us, and it's white who is completely winning in this position because of rook a1. If they play a7 directly, chess crime, because after rook a5, black is the one who is completely winning. But of course, rook a1, rooks belong behind the pass pawns. There is no way for us to stop. a7, rook a5, doesn't work at all. Takes a7. The pawn is promoting on the next turn, right? Otherwise, I mean, if you have to play like this, then the game is, of course, lost, right? You just lost the rook. And of course, with best play, white will convert this position with the next rook. You see, the most beautiful, grandiose, strategic ideas can backfire tactically in chess. Chess is fundamentally a tactical game. Our floor must be so high when it comes to blunder check to play good chess. Queen b6 looks like a beautiful move. I'm training the queens, and yet it's a very unsafe move once you go through the P part in our clamp checklist. This will be your homework position, guys. Svidler versus Motilev in 2009 in European Cup. Okay, Svidler with the white pieces. He has an extra pawn in this position and beautiful heavy pieces on the h-file, and also the bishop is beautiful on d3. But how do you convert this position? What's the most efficient way for white, let's say, to convert this position? White has several choices, but I want you to analyze one move in depth. Bishop c4, guys. My question is this: is bishop c4 a good move or a blunder? Okay, looks beautiful, looks like an amazing move, right? Alignment problems, pin problems, but the bishop is also a loose piece on c4. It seems like there are also some resources that you're giving to black. But before you conclude directly, please calculate properly. That's a rewarding calculation exercise for you. Just like in the first position, I might be tricking you. A move might look like a blunder, but it may turn out to be a good move, and vice versa. Bishop c4. Please judge the safety of this move and then write to me on YouTube with a clear conclusion. I'm responding to your answers for homework, guys, so please use this chance and leave a comment on YouTube. In case, it might be a little bit like a deeper calculation than 3-ply, and that's also why that's a homework, so you can take your time. You can maybe spend 15 to 20 minutes max on this position. I'm sure this will be rewarding for you. You will benefit from this visualization training. Also, you're learning how to attack the enemy king as well, right? But most importantly, you're asking yourself the right questions. You'll be asking yourself, all these letters potentially, letters C, L, and A are combined in this single exercise, right? Check, loose piece, and alignment. All three letters are presented nicely in this beautiful position. Clamp allows you to get information about yourself as well. If you find yourself to consistently failing on a particular letter, let's say L, you don't spell loose pieces, that's great information for you because you know exactly what to track in your next training sessions, right? You'll be much more mindful about these things. You can even write down like a small checklist, post it on your screen or something, and you remind yourself actively when you're playing ideally slower games to remind yourself of that letter L. Because whenever you learn something new, it takes time. It always starts slowly, maybe some conscious reminders like a checklist for yourself, and only then, with repeated practice, with deliberate practice, this will be automatized. This will be much more like in your second nature after some time. But give it some time. It won't happen tomorrow. Of course, it will take time. Chess is a complex game, but that's a function of this course, to let you aware of those important targets, concrete targets like clamp, and to give you information about yourself. You can even start with 2 or 3 letters at a time. Instead of all 5 letters in a clamp checklist, start with 2 or 3 that you're even failing more, let's say, right? And then include more letters down the line. Again, I'm a very, very happy author, guys. After 2 months since the course was published, received excellent reviews. That really makes me happy, really motivates me to work more on my future courses. I did it to be able to help you, my dear students, including my own students. I want to give them something that can really reduce their blunders and raise their floors so they can start enjoying deeper aspect of chess. Beautiful and complex, strategic aspect of chess can be enjoyed mostly if your floor is raised, if you stop cruelly blundering your pieces in your games. That was one of the overarching goals of this course as well. Thank you so much. If you liked the video, please give me a like and subscribe, guys, and share this video with a friend who you think would benefit from its content. I'm sure you know many people who keep blundering in chess, and that will change after this course. Thank you so much.